Many years ago, when I was in the 8th grade, I was just hanging out with a couple of friends of mine, and we were walking around Union Square Park. It was not too far from where I grew up in Lower Manhattan, and just really like wandering around in that area. I wound up staying with these two guys long past dinner time. So finally I meandered home at 7 o'clock at night, rang the doorbell of my apartment. My mother opened the door and slapped me in the face in one motion. And I really knew at that moment that I deserved it. It may not be the board of discipline used nowadays, which is fall of 1964 this happened. And I knew also that she did it, I began to reflect on that, I knew she did it out of love. It was tough love, but it was love. As it happened, I never hung around with those two guys again. And I don't know, I was pretty oblivious, but I don't know what other reason I might have been interested in wandering around Union Square Park, but as it happened, both of those guys became involved with drugs. And neither of them saw the year 30, both of them died before they reached the age of 30. And here I am, by the mysterious providence of God, ordained a priest, a bishop. So that's not a complete, perfectly cute story, but it's the way it happened. And it reminded me, always reminds me, of the power of a mother's love. That was the kind of moment that was wound up being pivotal in my life. I always associate that with Our Lady of Fatima. That's a little bit of a stretch, but there is, to my mind, sort of a connection. Because if you think about the three most attested, the three apparitions of Our Lady that are best attested to, the three most prominent, you have Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Lourdes, and Our Lady of Fatima. In the first two, really is a focus on the tenderness, the maternal tenderness of Mary. In Guadalupe, for example, that message. And in the story of Our Lady of Lourdes, the healing touch of the mother. But in Fatima, there is tough love delivered, no question about it. Because in Fatima, Our Lady revealed the mystery of hell to the children. Back in 2017, when Pope Francis actually commemorated the 100th anniversary of the apparitions, he just said it quite well that the veil of eternity was lifted for these children. I did have the opportunity a few years ago, because another priest had to cancel, being able to accompany pilgrims to Lourdes and Fatima. And hearing the story once again, I became fascinated with little Jacinta. Well, Lucia lived well into modern times, but the youngest was Jacinta, and after seeing the vision of hell, her life became kind of immersed in prayer and penance. Fatima, of course, is the apparition also associated with the feast we celebrate today, the Feast of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Because to the children and to us as well, it was stressed the idea of reparation to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. There is, of course, a difference between yesterday's feast and today. When we talk about the Sacred Heart of Jesus, we're talking about God Himself, the great connection between Jesus' heart and the Holy Eucharist. So we adore God, Jesus, his heart present in the Holy Eucharist. But by association, we are devoted and can do reparation to the heart of Mary, because she's so closely associated with Jesus, not only physically, but of course the heart is not only a physical organ, but the heart represents the core of a person. And in the case of Mary, that Immaculate Heart is one presented for veneration, not adoration because he's not God, but veneration and imitation. Pope Pius XII, who instituted this feast day of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, said that Mary's heart is a symbol of the interior life, because all her, basically Mary's activity in the gospel, she has critical role to play, critical words to say, but crucial is what's going on inside of her. For example, the first reading by way of prophecy speaks about the rejoicing of the bride the prediction of the bride of Christ, or rejoicing in the heart of Mary. Her joy, for example, in the Magnificat, comes about by way of her gratitude. But also in the Gospel, we read about one of the 7 sorrows of Mary, when we have Jesus who goes to teach in the temple and is separated from them at that point. So joy and sorrow are both aspects of love, and love is something that comes from the interior. It doesn't operate from motives of human respect or how things appear or just to get along, to go along, but to do what is God's will. And that's what Mary is an example of. On the line of reparation, one of the things associated with Fatima and the Immaculate Heart is the first Saturday devotion, which involves confession, communion, the rosary, and meditation on the rosary. Obviously, by way of conformity to this message, it's essential, obviously, the daily rosary, but also sacrifices. That's what reparation is about. Yesterday was a blessed day for anyone who loves his or her country, because it really, by way of the law, reversed the idea asserted years ago by the Supreme Court that there exists a right to privacy that it amounts to a right to kill. That kind of right is was asserted over against God. It was a way of establishing the United States as an atheistic country. It was in its own way diabolical. But as various people, including Pope John Paul II, have pointed out, the United States was founded on the idea that rights only come from God. That's what the Declaration of Independence tells us. So, great act of patriotism by the majority of the Supreme Court yesterday, and a great blessing in that public declaration of a country opposed to God was erased. There's still obviously much more progress on the way to protecting all human life to be achieved. But one thing we see or saw yesterday also was the reaction of many people dedicated to this right. We really can't be surprised that people who defend violence will resort to violence. So that's an indication that there are many people, including many young people, who are really lost spiritually in this country. And there's great need for reparation. It kind of, to think about, for example, Jacinta and the intensity, the passion she felt to sacrifice and pray for sinners. That's something we particularly think about when we think about the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the need to imitate that heart, conform ourselves to it. Devotion to the Immaculate Heart is for us a way of drawing near to her, of drawing near to the path of heaven, and hopefully bring many other people with us. Event in my early life, tough love on the part of my mother, really steered me in the right direction. And I'm really eternally grateful for a mother's love. But today, in the Feast of the Immaculate Heart, we're all meant to give thanks to the love of our mother in heaven and rejoice with the assurance that she gave the children of Fatima, she gave us. She predicted at that time that there would be great turmoil in the world, and there is great turmoil in the world in which we live, in the country in which we live. But we can rejoice and be grateful for the promise that she made the children makes to us as well. In the end, my Immaculate Heart